live. Hey guys, Sifu Adalik here, Red Sash Renegade, and I'm trying this a little bit different today. I'm trying on my phone so I can see who's joining in. And I want to make this quick video to talk about culture, your culture, and how to build a strong culture in your organization or in your team or in your your little tribe or group that you have. Whether if it's clients, if you have a if you're self-employed and you have a bunch of clients, you have your own culture, even though all of your clients might not know each other, they might not all know each other, there's still a little bit of a culture that you all got to, you get to feed off each other. And that can be a really cool thing. And if you learn to direct it properly, it can do a lot of the work for you in building a team or organization. You don't always have to be there guiding and inspire everyone what to do. A lot of times they'll just know intuitively based off what the culture is. So I had someone ask me if I could talk about that, if I could ask about how to build a culture, because in our school, in our martial arts program, we have a very strong culture where everyone feels like they're in the right room. They're always learning. They're always supporting each other, and that doesn't have to be unique to what we're doing. It will work in any kind of culture, whether you're whatever your business is. It can definitely help. And it can help bring a lot of the right clients in that you want, and it can also kind of keep the clients that you don't want kind of like at the gates and not in your business, throwing off that culture, right? So the first piece of advice I had for building a strong culture was understanding your values, right? And you've probably heard that before, but if you're going to set goals, you're going to give yourself a direction to go in building your practice or your business or your organization. You really have to know what your values are, right? Because if you go to set goals and they're not congruent with your values, if they're not in alignment, then you're going to hit some friction somewhere and you're not going to understand why, okay? It's not going to feel right to push forward and persevere through those struggles because the goals that you're achieving aren't in line with your values. So you might have heard me say that before, and now a lot of times what we do with clients and students is we get them to sit down and just write out a list of their values. We give them a sample of like 50 things that we, suggestions on what their values are. Things like, our Black Sash values, like we have persistence, we have accountability, we have courage, we have compassion, right? And leadership. Those are all, good values. Those are some of our values. Family is another one, right? The thing is, though, you can list them, that's great, but the truth is you really don't know your values until you put them to the test. So this is one of the positive things that came out of the pandemic, is that we actually had our values revealed to us, right? Until you test them, you don't really know what they are. So you can sit down and make a list of all your values. So you can, all the things that you'd like. Right? I like honesty. I like integrity. Yeah, those are great things. I like this ideal. I like that ideal. You can list them, but until you test them, they're really just kind of flashy things that you like to look at. You don't really know. So when we had this adversity that we had, it really put our values to the test, and we found out which ones were actually valuable to us and which ones we kind of just liked. And the ones that we kind of just liked, they got tossed aside, and the ones that were actually valuable, they're the ones that got held up. So you have to understand that. The only way to really and that takes time. It takes time and effort. So in your business, gradually you go through and you find out what your values are. Every time you hit a big struggle, you find out who you are. So now you can make note of that. Make note of, instead of just writing a list of what you think your values are, think back to the past 2 years and think which ones you've held on to. Okay, you've really held on to and have got you through. Those are ones that you want to start with. Okay, so that's the first step, is understanding your values if you're going to get other people on board with them to build this culture. Okay, the second thing is you have to learn to polarize your audience a little bit. Now I know that sounds a little bit like, wait, what? Don't I want to be like, I want to get everyone, I want to include everyone, right? Well, the way tribes and cultures form together are around those values, and those values are typically, relative, because this group of people decides they want to, group around these values relative to these other people who don't, right? So when you kind of have a message that shows these values what they are, what your cultural values are, and what they're not, it will bring people in and attract them more, but it'll also repel people that do not share those values, okay? And I mean, you can't you can't keep everyone happy all the time. You have to accept that as a leader, as a business owner, as an entrepreneur. You have to accept that you just can't keep everyone happy all the time. You should stop trying, because you're just gonna, you're gonna burn yourself out. So having that polarizing effect, making it very clear about what you're for, but also spending as much time talking about what you're for, you can also talk about what you're against. Okay, so for example, right, when we're teaching our holistic kung fu program, we are for persistence, right? We are against shortcuts. Okay, so we have to be not only for this thing, but also against that thing, and that will attract the right person that is a lot more aligned with that message. So find ways to express your values, but then also make sure you're standing against something that you find is either in your way, you don't like. If you're in the alternative health kind of sphere, well, then you're against like the mainstream health, right? If you are in something where, I don't know, I think you get the idea. I don't need to keep throwing more examples at you. And then the next step is to building a good culture is you have to differentiate internally. So this means you have to find ways in your, even if it's in your actual bricks and mortar business or just in your group, how you interact with people, you have to find ways to make things a little bit quirky and a little bit different. That means, using different names for things. Okay, what builds a strong culture is that you have a different methodology or different names or quirky different ways to do something that outside of that culture they don't have, and that makes people appreciate it. Your customers appreciate a lot more. So if you've got jargon, that you use, that can be helpful. Jargon with your clients, right? Not with only your staff, because that confuses people, but with your clients. If they're in on that special jargon, right, that makes everyone feel like they have their own little club they're part of. So that helps as well. Anything that is as different as you can get from the rest of the outside world will help you build that culture. And let me think of Disney, for example. Disney has things that they do differently with their employees, a lot of different things. So for example, they call all their employees cast members, right? You're not an employee at Disney, you're a cast member. Well, that's something different that doesn't exist everywhere else, and they have that strong culture of everyone's part of the show and everyone's helping out, right? So that's another example. And then you want to find different ways of rewarding the behavior that you want and make it visible, whether it's a patch or a pin or something that someone could wear with a little bit of pride. That also helps. Okay, so I hope that answers that question about how to build a culture. There's a few things. Again, you can go on and on about this, and I think last video I talked about the Culture Code by Daniel Lowe. I forgot his last name. This is my last video. The Culture Code is a good book to read on building a strong culture as well. And I'd also recommend you read From Good to Great is also a good book on building a culture too. Okay. Anyway, if you have any questions, put them in the comment section. If you enjoyed this and you found it valuable, please click on the link below. And I have a couple workshops for you that are a gift if you just go to the website and sign in, and you'll get them delivered to your inbox. Okay. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you soon.